What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Proverbial Life podcast. This is a podcast where we encourage Christians to look to Christ, live wisely, and leave a legacy behind for generations to follow. Hope everyone's doing well today. Today, we're going to have a special guest on the podcast here in a moment. In the meantime, what I need you to do, those of you who are watching and tuning in, I need you to share this episode. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can get this right on my Facebook. I need you to share this episode on your social media platforms, and I need you to get the word out. Let people know that we're live. Let people know that we are getting ready to get started here. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Hope everyone's having a good evening. It looks like I'm not live on Facebook. Thank you for the person who's here on YouTube. Greetings, grace and peace from our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You know what I'm going to do real quick? I'm going to restart this link. Do I want to do that? Hold on a second. Give me 1 second here, y'all. All righty. Give me 1 second here. Okay. All right. I think we're live on Facebook right now as well. Let's see. All right. We're live. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Proverbial Life. Again, this is a podcast that encourages Christians to live wisely. Well, look to Christ, live wisely, and leave a legacy behind for generations to follow. Today, I have a special guest with me, brother, that I'll have introduced here in a moment. For those of you who are new to the podcast, you can find us on YouTube and there at the Proverbial Life. You can also make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share it with your friends, your family, and your enemies. If you would, please consider donating or supporting the ministry on patreon.com, Patreon/Proverbial Life. Let's see who's on here. I see we have April. Grace and peace, sister. Good to see you. Let me make sure that this is public. Hold on a second here. Having some technical difficulties here. One moment. Computer's acting slow. I can see that there's 6 people in here, but I can't see who's in here. And I want to know my peoples. I want to know who's in here. So give me 1 second. And my guest will be on momentarily as well. Okay, there we go. All right, now it's public. All right. Hey, April, what's going on? I can see you now. All right, cool. All right, we are officially live. So, with that being said, let me drop this on it real quick. All right, everyone, what's going on? This is the Proverbial Life podcast, where we encourage Christians to look to Christ, live wisely, and leave a legacy behind for generations to follow. I hope everyone's doing well this evening. Tonight, I have a special guest, a brother by the name of Justin Wilson. You can follow him on YouTube, and his official YouTube channel is called Adventist Hermes. So he'll be on here in a moment. Uh, I'm super encouraged about our conversation tonight, man. It's going to be good. It's going to be thought provoking. It's going to be really insightful. I think Justin has a lot of great insight and wisdom on the topic at hand. We're going to be talking about the topic of politics and race, or race and politics. And obviously, this is an important topic given the climate of our day, with the election taking place and with all the political jargon that's taking place in our nation. In fact, Justin is tuning in now, so let me bring him in the room. 1 second. Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up?
How you doing, my man?
Good, good, good. Praise God.
Cool, cool. So we're live right now. We just started. I actually just introduced you. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna clear my screen. Oh, I know you in New York. I can hear it. That's
Look,
what's up, man.
I couldn't find a quiet place.
I,
Uh,
I, I
I,
miss it.
yeah, I couldn't find a quiet place to sit down, and my inside is like really dark, and I didn't bring my lighting, so
It's all
yeah,
good. It's all good, man. We gonna work with it, man. It's all good. It gives some aesthetics,
yeah,
some aesthetic background.
some character to it.
That's right. That's right.
Some background music.
Yeah, man. So Justin, if you would, man, please just briefly introduce yourself to the audience and let them know where they can find your work, the work that you've produced, and then we'll get into our conversation, man.
Cool. Well, I am Adventist Hermes, Justin Wilson. You can look that up on YouTube, Adventist Hermes, Justin Wilson, because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and I love hermeneutics. So Hermes is short for hermeneutics, which also is an allusion to the Greek god Hermes. But anyway, I'd like to talk about politics because I believe politics will eventually lead into what we can recognize as prophecy, and seeing the trends of how things, um, it's kind of morph into these big events is something I'm very interested in, especially when it comes to race and issues that come to that, because it's really hard to find many Black voices that are willing to just speak up honestly about these things because of groupthink and herd mentality. Uh, we don't want to betray our own race, and we don't want to be a Judas to our own people. And if anyone appears that way, then yeah, that person is ousted. But yeah, I don't really care for all that. Just the truth. If you are against the truth, you are a Judas. So
No, that's good, brother. Yeah, that's good, man. I appreciate that. It's crazy. So just for the listeners, Justin and I met like officially, I would say officially like 2 minutes ago. And so let me just give you some brief context. So I'd subscribed to Justin's YouTube channel, I would say a couple months ago, maybe I would say 6 months ago or so. And I was really encouraged, man, by the content, because and we'll get into this more. I used to be what they call woke. And when I came across your content, along with others, it just continued to solidify a foundation on how we should be looking at things from the political standpoint, and the tactics and maneuvers being used by the left, but not just the left, but extremists, both in and outside of the church, that are trying to bring deception in the name of unity to people in the household of God, but even just Americans and people who love this country. You would have been considered, you're considered a racist, you're considered a bigot, you're considered a white supremacist, but none of those terms are really defined. And so when I came across your content, I was super encouraged. I was challenged. I loved the way you articulated your ideas, and I appreciated that. And I was telling my wife this, man, that I even appreciated the uniqueness of your look. And I came to understand even the symbolicness behind your look, right? So I appreciated the sides, how you have them dyed. I appreciated your braids, and then I just appreciated your articulation in communicating. And the reason why I appreciated that, man, was because, and this maybe gets into our conversation. There's a certain um, look and caricature that has been placed on what they call people of color, and that is this idea of either not professional or ignorant, right, or a thug, and all these things, is some of which has been perpetuated by people from within, right, with the kinds of music that's being portrayed, and the violence that we see take place even within those contexts. But to be, and you alluded to this earlier, to be a black man, right, who is able to articulate himself and his ideas in such a way that's actually opposed to CRT and the woke movement and the left ideology, is like, as blasphemy, right? It's like you're a coon, you're somebody who's left the fray, and so I wanted to get you on here, brother, to talk about some of these ideas with the questions that I posed to you early. So with that being said, man, the very first thing I want to ask you, and I told you that I'd ask you this, was, what are your initial takeaways from last night's debate? I mean, there's a lot to go and to talk about. What are your initial
Well,
thoughts?
yeah, I was just walking. That's why I was a little late. I was walking, trying to do a quick video of the sun go down, and my first thoughts was, okay, this is definitely going to favor Trump as far as memes and zingers goes, but as far as his image looking like the nice guy, he was not looking like Mr. Nice Guy for those who are like voting emotionally, and they're just looking for, oh, who's more pleasant, he's not looking good there. But Joe Biden, he was he was looking more as the weak guy, less than the nice guy, because when you look at him, you just see him like, I'm like, come on, don't give me those puppy eyes like you're getting beat up. You're a grown
Right, right.
man.
That's
And
that's a good point, man. Yeah, keep going. I want to throw something in there with that.
yeah, and and then Chris Wallace adding to that. I mean, part of the reason why Donald Trump seemed to be, okay, one, he was eager to beat up, like eager to just stomp Joe Biden. That's one. And then two, Chris Wallace was adding to that. I guess it was adding to Trump wanting to say as much as he could, because he knew Chris Wallace was like trying to hurry things up. And that's what you saw happening. He would interrupt, he would um, get involved, debate back and forth with Trump. And then when Trump had Joe Biden right where he wanted him, he would say, "Oh, well, we gotta go to another subject. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that." And it was like, "Come, he
I
just
know. I know. Yeah, that I agree, man. That was infuriating. And it was, I was thinking, man, going into this debate, I was thinking, how is Joe Biden going to handle this, right? Like how, because Joe Biden, you could tell throughout the months this time has come, like you could tell that he's declined mentally, right? So how is Joe going to handle this, right? Like, is the teleprompter going to be able to keep up? You know what I mean? Like with all this going on, and then I saw the debate last night, and it clicked. Well, he got some help from the moderator, and he also got some help, man, from people that, as you mentioned, um who are voting from optics only, right? Because on an optic level, Trump looked angry, Trump looked mean, right? And then Biden looked like the innocent old man, right? So and a friend of mine pointed this out, man. I thought this was interesting. He does videography, and I think you do too, right? Do you do
yeah,
videography? Okay, I don't know if you noticed this, but he mentioned that if you look at the video again, you can see that Trump's video, or his side of the screen, actually looks a little darker and more orange than Biden's did. And so for people who think, well, that's not that big of a deal, um, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it when you look back on it, just to follow up. But the reason why that's important is because it gives this darker image or
Menacing.
orange image. It makes them look angrier. It takes away it just makes a juxtaposition, right? It makes them look contrary to one another and different. And so add on top of that the angry look on top of the innocent look. And then, man, the other thing was with the innocent puppy dog look, um a lot of people, man, they don't know how to think critically. And so if they see that on a visual level, they'll say, well, see, there goes Trump. He's a bully. He's beaten up. Like Biden, and so I just all that got me upset, man, because it was just, let's deal with the arguments. And so, man, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. People who are not familiar with the politics or the policy of things, they were just listening to the voices and the tones of people. That's it. So you
Right,
just imagine like someone who's in high school, who's actually 18, all they do is play video games and they're thinking about voting. And they walk by, seeing the TV, and all they hear is Trump, like interrupting and talking over Joe Biden and Chris Wallace. They're like, oh, well, obviously that's the bad guy, and
right,
that's as far as the mentality goes. Um,
right,
People like maybe you and I who actually think about this stuff, think it through. Oh, well, we will look over that and say, okay, what Trump said was on point, and look, Joe Biden doesn't have an answer for that. So we're looking at it from different dimensions. People are in different places and they're reading what they want to read. So, yeah,
right. Yeah. And I guess that brings me to the point of I had tweeted this earlier. I think there were a couple, in hindsight, I think there were a couple missed opportunities for Trump. And I say this in hindsight because, man, let's be honest, man, when you're in the heat of a debate, right? There are things you look back on and you go, I should have said this. I should have said that. I could have said this. We all get that, right? But one of the things that I think Trump missed out on was the accusation of him embracing white supremacy. I think Trump, looking back, what he should have done was first of all have Chris Wallace define what white supremacy is to him, right? Because unless you rightly define white supremacy, then white supremacy is, being in favor of the Constitution, or white supremacy is, that can be kind of morphed however you want it to be morphed. And so that needed to be rightly defined. And then the question on CRT, critical race theory, I think it was assumed that the country knows what CRT is. And so that would have been a good opportunity for Trump to say, this is why I shut off all funding for CRT, right? Because the narrative was twisted. Well, what's wrong with racial training? Well, it's not just racial training.
yeah,
This is something beyond that. And so I think that was a missed opportunity as well. But any thoughts on that? What do you think on that point?
yeah. See, Chris Wallace, he gave him a loaded question, and when it comes to the question of white supremacists being condemned, he wanted him to condemn the Proud Boys and all the militia groups that were protecting the city or the neighborhoods against Antifa, which were not white supremacist groups. No white supremacist group were out during these recent riots. So he wanted Trump to denounce those groups so that I guess everyone would just say, "Oh, see, Trump is against his own base." And then another thing, see, when Trump said, "Yeah, sure, I'll denounce white supremacists. Who do you want me to name?" And there was a lot of people just didn't get the quick um, statements that was being said. They were like, "Okay, say it, like denounce him." And then Joe Biden says, "Proud Boys." So he picked up on that and he says, "Proud Boys, stand back and stand by."
Right,
He didn't call them, he didn't condemn them because they're not white supremacists. So
right.
that went over a lot of people's heads.
That's good.
And those who don't know who Proud Boys are, they're like, "Oh, well, isn't that white supremacist? I mean, didn't CNN tell me that those are white supremacists? Why didn't he condemn them?" They don't think further than that. So they're left to assume that Trump did not denounce the KKK and all these, like all the other times he did before. Uh,
Right.
but he said Proud Boys, and then I mean, and Trump, he saw that as a way where, see, they didn't understand the wisdom that he was trying to like get to was he wanted them to be specific. Because if you just say white supremacists,
Right.
then then he can't like get them to be specific because he wanted them to be specific about Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which
Right.
is why he transitioned to, okay, Joe Biden, how about you denounce Antifa?
Right.
And then Chris Wallace was like, oh, we got to move on. We got
Yes.
to shut up.
Yeah, and that, man, is so manipulative, man. Because again, that's the talk of today, right? Like that's the talk of today. Trump didn't denounce white supremacy, when record is showing that he has on countless occasions. And so the narrative is twisted, that Trump is the racist when, man, in all actuality, Biden is the one who, in policy, has actively been a racist, right? In policy, and in the 47 years that he's been in, politics, he and the Clintons have produced and promoted some of the most anti-black policies, that we know of. And here we have Trump, for the 4 years that he's been in office, coming up on 4 years, to be denounced as a racist, man. And this is the thing, man. Listen, this is the thing too. Um, be being a racist, man. Being a racist isn't the worst thing in the world, right? You know where someone stands at when they're racist, okay?
Mhm.
Like, okay, you're a racist, right? I want to know about your policies and how you run the country, because you can say you're a racist, and unless your policies are actually against other races, like if he had policies that were truly systemic racist policies that were in place that would show evidence of his racism, then he shouldn't be president, right? But if you have some biases toward a specific ethnic group, that's your personal belief. You're more than welcome to do that, right? In fact, brother, man, this is important for us to note, because when we talk about sin, um, and our hearts being, sinful and wicked by nature, like all of us at some point show prejudice or have shown prejudice toward our own kind, toward other ethnic groups, right? So this narrative, man, it was frustrating, it was infuriating, it was disappointing, but I'm not surprised, right? Like, it's the media, and things are going to get twisted the way they are. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but it is what it is. But I still I enjoyed it for myself.
I did too.
Like, yeah, but yeah, I'm just mad at Chris Wallace. I'm like, yo, if we had just taken him out the way, and then put like Joe Rogan or someone else. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Joe Joe Biden would have no chance.
Listen, bro.
He would be crying.
Right. Listen, whatever you say about Trump, man, the man knows how to put on a show, bro. Like, he knows how to. Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that, man, because our nation, man, our nation is in a bad position right now. I wouldn't advocate that any of these two men are God-fearing individuals. Some make the argument that Trump is. Um, I wouldn't, but if Biden is in office and the policies that he adheres to, him and Kamala Harris, are put in place, we are going to be in a worse off position very quickly, and so we really need to take that into consideration. With that being said, man, let me get to some of the questions that we have here. Um, if Let me see this. So let me ask you this, brother. This is a question that I told you I was going to ask you. As a Black conservative, and you alluded to this earlier, but what kind of pushback? And let me go back. Would you consider yourself a conservative? Would that be how you would categorize yourself?
Yeah, a conservative, religiously and also politically. Yes.
Okay. So is it fair to call to say a Black conservative? Would you consider yourself a Black? Okay. So
Yeah.
as a Black conservative, what kind of pushback have you received from the Black community? from maybe even just like white liberals or political liberals because of your political convictions?
I get the typical, your coon, your Uncle Tom, Marcus, Sambo. People, they try to grandstand and act like I'm ignorant and that I'm being used, I'm being paid. Um, they, oh my goodness, what the heck? New York. Uh, anyway, yeah. Yeah, people just pretend that like what I'm saying is something they can diagnose. They want to pathologize everything and say I have some kind of mental, illness. Like I hate myself. No, that's their go-to is, oh, you hate yourself. And it's like, why would I hate myself? I actually think I actually like myself a lot. Like, but no, they feel like I have to hate myself to be willing to criticize a black guy. But the crazy thing is, what I really hate is if I'm calling out, let's say, even the worst criminal, the worst black criminal,
Mm,
and I say, look, this is connected to our hip hop music and our culture, and also the snitch, I guess the code of silence in our neighborhoods.
mm,
Oh, they would say, oh, you're a coon, you're a traitor. I'm like, what? Do you think I'm part of this crime society that I'm trading them? Like, are you connecting being black with being criminal? And it was disgusting, especially when I would denounce R. Kelly out of all people.
mm,
They'd say, oh, you hate yourself. Am I a pedophile? Like, what? Well, you want me to like associate my blackness to being a pedophile? So
mm,
that some people are so tribalistic that even denouncing criminals and scum that happen to share your color,
mm.
that must mean you hate yourself.
Wow.
So that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's twisted, man. It's upside down, for sure. I guess with that, man, how would you and this is a I'll give you I want to respond to it once you give your answer. How would you define black culture? Like how would you define it? Not so much how the left defines it, but what would you do? Like if somebody asked you, Justin, what is black culture? What is that? Like how would you break that down?
Man, that's a big question. Okay, we're gonna have to think about. Okay, how far do you want me to go? To Africa or to New
Think
to
about it. Think about it, and yeah. So just however you feel in a succinct way. If you were somebody, you're in a conversation with someone and say, "All right, Justin. Well, let me ask you a question. What is black culture? Like, break it down for me. What is black culture?"
Okay, so let me just put it this way. Black culture is the I guess the culture or the habits that we all have because we share an experience as being black, going through the struggle of coming from a legacy of slavery and Jim Crow, and also sharing, I guess, similar experience and yeah, sharing a similar experience growing up in an urban neighborhood or just being who we are and being treated by other races, and that's what kind of make our culture, who we are, is kind of how people treat us.
Okay. And so the reason I asked that question is because of that, right? So I think a lot of the pushback that you mentioned a moment ago that you've received as a black man has to do with, I think, in my opinion, and correct me if you think I'm wrong or if you will alter it a bit, but I think a lot of that has to do with how people of color or black people, and I say people of color as a not as a pejorative, but as people that as a Hispanic male, as a Latino, they would place me in that category, right? I'm a person of color, not white, non-white, um, like a white person, a non-white person would be a person of color. So I think they perceive people of color and black people as um, having a different opinion than that of the hip hop culture, pop star culture, sports, LeBron James culture, right? That mindset. They would view you and I as people who are not for the black culture. when really, man, when you think about Black culture and you think about the people who have endured the civil rights movement, right? The people who, like Martin Luther King Jr. and the people that have gone before us, that have really like fought the fight, and they strove for excellence, and they didn't put people on the lowest bottom of the totem pole to the top, like the reversal order. It wasn't backwards, right? So it's almost like we just got it upside down in our culture of what is Black culture. Like the worst of what we have represented in our culture is deemed as what is to be Black culture. And a part of that has to do with how the media portrays it, but a lot of that has to do from within and how we take on the ideologies of our sports figures who don't know what the heck they're talking about, but they have this platform. And so what do you think of that? Would you agree with that? Would you differ? Would you say something different to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say culture is habit. And when you're talking about habit, you're talking about the good and bad. Just sadly, we identify with the bad too much when it's not necessary. And then we get mad when people point it out. Like if someone who is not Black point out the bad in our culture, then we say that they're racist. Or if
Right.
the only time we could talk about it is if we're talking about it in jest or joking.
Yeah.
But like we all see the problem, and we're just pretending that it's not a problem when a white person says it, or if I say it in front of white people, which is crazy. It's like, yo, you put your dirty laundry out there in these hip hop songs, you publicize it, on YouTube, and you get billions of views. So you're saying that I'm the guy that is betraying you guys, that making Black people look worse? No. Uh, so I that's what I would say to that, is just we often yeah, we identify with the bad side of our culture and not the good side.
Right. No, that's real, man. And we really, when people like LeBron James and these superstars who, let's be honest, man, they're not facing any form of oppression. You know, if anything, man, they are the epitome of privilege, right? In so many respects, man. And what's troubling about these kind of individuals, man, and the misrepresentation, right? Because where they're at, they actually had to work really hard to get where they're at, right? And nothing was handed to them, right? I mean,
Mhm.
maybe along the lines, right? There was some favors, but for, like, generally speaking, they worked really hard. But the narrative that they want the common Joe to believe is
Mhm.
that they are living in a systemic society, right? That Black people are being hunted down by white police officers all the time. That you can't even that we can't even sleep in our beds and we're getting shot and killed. And people are eating this up while they're having Taco Tuesday in their mansion, right? So
Yeah.
so so the narrative, man, is a betrayal. It's actually sorry about that. It's actually a betrayal to people who live in the real world, right? Like it's just upside down, man. And what it does is, right, so then they say, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, right? Because they say go vote, just vote. But they're not informing people because they're not informed on how to vote, who to vote for, or how to vote, how who you vote for impacts your community, right? So when they say go vote, they're saying go vote for a party that has actually perpetuated systemic racism in your community because
Mhm.
Trump is a racist. Like, how does that help at all?
Yeah. See, part of the issue with how they glorify this, I guess, victim mindset, where, oh my goodness, we can't sleep in our bed, we're gonna get shot like Breonna Taylor. Oh my goodness, we can't walk in the street because the cops are gonna pull us over and then kill us. We do that because we want to feel special. We want to
Mhm.
feel like the special, victim, and that we're the people of God, like the Hebrew Israelites that always are getting attacked, and we don't understand why the universe picked us, but it picked us. So
mm,
there's this kind of narcissism to it, and yeah, they feel like they're because there's kind of narcissism has like a fantasy component to it in a strange way, um, religiously, and then also I would say just is part of this mythology that, look, if we vote this racist out, then everything is just going to be sunshines and flowers everywhere, and things are just going to work together, and it's we're going to be pushing along the civil rights dream. Yeah, I mean, and there's the and see, people think that progress is always up.
mm,
It's no, it's sometimes it's up and down, and their mindset is the next level for progress is getting Donald Trump out of office.
mm,
That's where we're going to go down. They don't even see the idea of actually us regressing,
mm,
but that's what's happening. It's we're regressing, and we're not making um, we're not actually having racial harmony as we were before. Like maybe I don't know. It seems like in the '90s, early 2000s, we were a lot better,
mm,
but
mm.
now it's just crazy. Like white people are scared,
Yeah.
and there's white people who are kissing up, black people, just kissing their behinds to make sure that they don't get jumped, they are accepted by them, and that they won't be called racist and have their business voted down on Yelp or something like that. Then
Mm.
there's white people who are just like, let me not hang out with any black people because I don't want no trouble. I know how they get. So
Yeah, yeah, no, no, that's real. And so I guess with that, man, what about the elephant in the room, right? Is this and so the elephant in the room, I would say, with some of these legislations, man, and these and not just Democratic states, right, but predominantly Democratic states, where we see an increase of violence, where we see Black Lives Matter movement, which is, I mean, I would have loved for the narrative to be flipped yesterday to say, look, do you denounce Black supremacist groups such as the Black Lives Matter organization, right? Because it's like only white supremacists, right? Only white people could be racist, right? But not like an entire Black Lives Matter movement. That can't be the case. So I, and I know that that's what Trump was kind of getting at. Like, look, man, what about Antifa? What about Black Lives Matter? Like, what about those things? Like, are you willing to do that? But I guess what I would consider the elephant in the room, I would say there's two in the Black community. One is first and foremost is abortion, right? It is rampant, and it is a modern day Holocaust, man. And I would say that it's unfortunate that even with Trump, man, I was disappointed, and whatever, he's not a godly man, man. Doesn't, I'm not, I don't think the Bible is his final authority, but I would say that when he said Roe v. Wade isn't on the table last night, gosh, we're here arguing about white supremacy, but babies are being murdered and ripped from the womb, so that's an atrocity. That's disgusting. It's terrible. The other thing that I would say, and that, by the way, is predominantly evident within the Black community purposefully, right?
mm,
Purposefully. But the other thing is the Black on Black violence, the Black on Black crime. And so with that, man, how would you address the Black on Black crime? Is that a thing? Some people say we shouldn't call it Black on Black crime. It's just crime within our communities. Like, how would you categorize that?
yeah, it's black on black crime. Some people say, oh, well, why don't we talk about white on white crime? Because white on white crime is not special as far as the rates, how high, how much they have crime against each other. Black on black crime, we have high rates
Hmm,
that exceeds every other race, which
hmm,
makes us unique and worth talking about. And a lot of people try to, some people would try to play this numbers game where they hope you don't get the concept of per capita. So they will show the FBI statistics, and they would show you the big numbers where white people have, committed such and such crime, and it's a high number. But then you see black people commit such and such crime, and it's a high number that's actually competing with white people as far as the amount. But what they don't tell you is that white people make up 60 to like 70% of the population. If you consider some Puerto Ricans, white or something. Yeah, they make up 60% of the population. So yeah, you're gonna expect a high number. But then when it comes to black people, that is 5 times less of a population. They're 13% of the population. Then yeah, that number is extremely high for making up, a number like half of the crime in the United States. We commit 5 times more crime against ourselves and also against other races. So
Wow.
it's a big issue, and a lot of times we don't think about it, we don't talk about it, because some black people in their heart, they feel like, well, they owe us. They slaughtered us during slavery, so this is kind of payback. And you kind of get that sentiment talking to a lot of these guys. They would bring up the KKK or white supremacy back in the Jim Crow days, and that's their mentality, is that we're committing so much crime because we need to give some payback. And now that you're crying over us beating you up, look how it feels. That's our mentality. So we need to stop that, because all we're doing is, I mean, we're part of the cycle. I mean, like, this is a scary thought to even bring up, but like, who's to say that us going into slavery was something that we did in history that caused it? If we're going to have this tit for tat kind of thing, then what if we were part of the cycle of tit for tat? And yeah, it became our time to get the tat or the attack from one race. And then, because some people would bring up the Moors, how they would go up and down, the country up in Europe and take slaves and, have war against everybody. We're like, we have to stop the cycle at some point. So,
Can you expound on that last point a little more? What do you mean, tick for tack?
well, if we're looking at it from a historical perspective, if let's say black people or people in Africa were victimizing or enslaving, let's say whites or any other tribe out there, then in a poetic justice way, or maybe a providential way where God is giving judgment, then yeah, that, like, what we've done should eventually come back to us as a curse. I mean, if we really believe that if you hit me, then I should hit you back, then what if we got hit because we hit someone else in the past? You know what I mean? It's a scary thought, because a lot of times we say, oh, we didn't do anything to nobody, we didn't enslave nobody. But
right.
What about Egypt? Like, don't we have a whole Bible talking about Egypt enslaving?
Yeah.
Now they may be different people. I don't know if those Egyptians moved over to the West, and but
Yeah. And the reason why I asked, I want to thank you for that. The reason why I wanted you to give a follow up. Somebody is interpreting that you're saying that black people deserve to be enslaved.
no, I'm just saying, what if, like, if we're gonna, like how the white people today don't deserve to be attacked for what their fathers done, then our people don't deserve that. But if we're gonna go with the mindset that white people are all connected to their fathers, then we're going to be connected to our fathers in their sins. Therefore, we should actually suffer the sins of our fathers. And what happened to us was perhaps what we deserve on behalf of our fathers, if that makes sense. I hope I made that clear.
Yeah, no, that's clear. That's clear. I appreciate it. Yeah, man, it's yeah, and this is why, man, we need, so speaking from within the context of the local church, man, this stuff will utterly destroy our churches. It will destroy our fellowship. It will destroy the unity that Christ accomplished on the cross. It will destroy the progress of the gospel,
Mhm.
because we in order for us um, to advance Christ's kingdom, right, is that we have to communicate God's message according to His word. And when we bring in ideas that are antithetical to God's word, then everyone's standard is different at that point. We don't have a standard that's a foundation that's unshaking and unwavering, and then we have different. And this is what's taking place. I'm not a Southern Baptist, but this is what's taking place in the Southern Baptist Convention, where you have to bring in analytical tools, right? So CRT is considered, critical race theory is considered in Resolution 9 an analytical tool. And so, as believers, man, our final authority has to be God's word, and it has to be solidified on the finished work of Christ. That is the ground upon which we stand on, that unites us. When Christ said, "It is finished," not only, anyway, we can get into that, but those are foundations that we have to stand on as believers. And if we don't, what's taking the chaos we see taking place in the world and is taking place within the church in small degrees will heighten if we don't nip it in the bud. Right? If we don't stand on the truth of God's word and say, and listen, I have to develop this thought some more, man. But I was thinking about this. What we need to do, man, there's a lot of pastors who and teachers who are embracing these ideas within the church, and ideas like critical race theory and the such. There's a lot of people who are embracing it. You know what needs to happen to those people? They need to get chucked off the boat like Jonah was. Just like, listen, Pastor, this isn't according to God's standard. Repent. If not, then you can't be the pastor here anymore. We vote you out, because it brings nothing but destruction, man. All right, brother. Let me ask you this. Um, for you, what do you see? People who say, let me hold on a second.
Cut me off.
People who say, third party, don't vote Trump, don't vote Democrat, third party. What are your thoughts on that?
Good. I think that's you voting, putting your vote in the trash while preserving your dignity.
There you go. So can you expound on that more? Trash. What do you mean?
Well, it's being wasted. It's not. I mean, it's not going to help the party that is going to win. Well, actually, it's going to help Trump, because less votes for Biden is a vote for Trump. And we know that the third party is not going anywhere. But at the same time, at least for your conscience, you could say, well, I didn't vote for Trump or Biden. And then that was my thinking, actually. I didn't vote for Trump the first, in 2016. I didn't want to, I definitely didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton once I, realized that she was a witch. I was like, whoa, I can't vote for that.
Among many other things, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would encourage someone, you wouldn't discourage someone from voting third party.
No, I wouldn't discourage them. Mm-mm.
So
No.
for you, man, what makes it Trump 2020 for you?
What makes it Trump is that I think he will, even though I don't think he is the best possible person in the world. Of course, Jesus is, but he will create a better path or a better history. Everyone else is just going to lead a downward to a quick descent of I would say barbarism. Um, it's just a state of confusion. With the whole transgender stuff, how the left, like, look, if Hillary Clinton had won, oh man, Christians would have been persecuted long time ago. Churches would have been shut down over like nothing. Our Bibles would probably been burned already, um, because yeah, they, as far as what the LGBT wants, as far as getting rid of
anyone that is against their whole pronoun movement. Oh, don't
Mhm.
call me a he when I'm a she, and I'm gonna sue you. Oh my goodness, that's a clear signal that if they had power, they would have they would have pretty much sued every church, closed it down, made sure that um, the Bible is a hate crime. If you just preach the Bible, it's a hate crime. Not just preaching Jesus. No, just preaching anything in the text is a hate crime because if you believe it, then you're believing a white supremacist book. That's what they would call it. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, um, I don't think that Trump is going to save us from Armageddon, but he's giving us more time.
man, I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, that's good, man. I have one more question for you, and then if anyone has any questions, we got a couple minutes left on the broadcast. Again, I'm with Justin Wilson. Justin, I appreciate you, man. Again, Justin's YouTube channel, definitely go check it out. It's Justin Wilson, Adventist Hermes. And I've really enjoyed Justin's stuff, man. I know you guys will as well. And again, please subscribe to this channel as well, The Proverbial Life, and make sure you hit the notification bell for updated videos. Justin, let me ask you one more question, and then we'll look at give a couple people a shout out who are on here. I see all the comments, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. I will give y'all a shout out here in a moment. But Justin, last question. Um, I'm assuming this answer, but I want to hear you say it and then maybe give some insight on this. But would you discourage someone for voting for Biden 2020? And if so, what would you tell them to try to convince them of that?
Well, if they're like me, then I would tell them, okay, one, Joe Biden is an obvious pedophile. That to me is the strongest reason. Besides that, Joe Biden is too old. He is clearly showing signs of dementia. Two, he's being controlled by the left that are extreme, not just moderate, not moderate leftists, but um, I would say like yeah, the extreme left, the people who believe in resorting to violence. He has his own brown shirt army. So if if anything, if you disagree with their views, then they will find you out. They will know where you work. They will know um, where you go, and they will protest at your house, throw things at your business, and Joe Biden will not have the power, the solitude, and actually call them a hate group or uh, in any way stop them. No, no, no. You will be thrown under the bus. At this point, moderates are irrelevant. They have no
Mhm.
power because they're not the one leading. So you guys saying, "Oh, hashtag it's not all. We're not all like that." It doesn't matter. You're not the head of the train. They're going to lead this country into the way they want it. So if that's a socialist, I guess, utopia, which is more of a nightmare, then that's where it's going to go because you guys have no power at this point.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Appreciate it, man. That's good. All right, y'all. Any questions before we put a bow on it for the evening? I see we have April says, "Hey, uh, Austin, what's going on?" April says, "That's why I left New York." That was when the beeping was in the background.
Yeah,
um, let's see what else. Austin says Donald Trump could have capitalized on a lot more key points about his accomplishments and Biden's failures. Yeah, could have. Um, and again, man, I made a video early on my Facebook page saying, look, man, for all you woke pastors and preachers out there who are denouncing Trump or want to denounce Trump for his white supremacy, will you denounce those who teach CRT and members of the church? Like, will you continue to let your pastors preach about white fragility and whiteness and all this junk over the pulpit? Like, will you denounce that? Like, if not, shut up. Like you just talking smoke, man.
yeah. I would.
Um,
I asked the question on my Facebook, like, what will you do when the Antichrist says that if you don't take his mark, you're a racist? I think a lot of people are going to fall for that. Like
sure.
the term racist is actually causing people to just give up their morals and their Christian principles.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. Trump was under a lot of pressure and being attacked by the moderator. Let's see if there's any questions here. Okay, let's see. Any questions, y'all? April says, she says, I don't understand how my Adventist family members overwhelmingly support Trump. She says, I'm talking about devout Adventists. Have you seen that in your own family or friends that you know of?
Oh, not my family. Surprisingly, my mom. Well, actually, it's not surprising. My mom, she supports Trump. She just thinks, what he says is cute or funny. Um, and my two sisters, um, they just got woke because of the whole, uh, I guess, the whole COVID thing, where the people started looking into the conspiracy behind it, and they saw how they were just twisting Trump's words. So they became Trump supporters from that. But when it comes to Adventists, there's a reason why a lot of Adventists don't trust Trump and would err on the side of the left, is because we have a prophecy. We believe that the world is going to end with apostate Protestantism, or I guess America as a whole will eventually start persecuting Christians or those who keep the Sabbath. And once we start seeing of church and state, then we're like, oh shoot, this is the sign of the end. So they don't like Trump because he's so connected with evangelicals. So they're rather err on the side of, oh well, let's support the left. Let's support those who are not in favor of church and state, or I guess the United States becoming more Christianized, because they don't want that apocalyptic, future to come. But I believe the same. But I'm like, you know what? I'd rather that future happen than what the left has for us, because the left, they want to kill us now.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for that, man. Rich, what's up, brother? Rich is in here. Hope all is well. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? We're getting ready to close. Ricardo says, he says here, Ricardo? He says, pray for Trump's salvation. All right. All right. So if there's no questions, do you have any final words, brother? Anything you want to share?
I guess Jesus is coming. That's it. I guess I don't really have much. I think I've said said what I wanted to say. So
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for joining. So much more to talk about, man. Obviously, and again, if you are not following Justin yet, please do so. Justin is at Justin Wilson Adventist Hermes on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel, hit the notification bell. Also, if you haven't, for my YouTube channel, please do so, The Proverbial Life, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell as well. Man, Justin, thank you for your time, man. If you would just stick around a little bit after we finish, and we'll kind of officially meet behind the scenes. But thank you for watching. This is The Proverbial Life, a podcast where we encourage Christians to look to Christ, live wisely, and leave a legacy behind for generations to follow. Grace and peace, y'all.